we turn our attention to Pittsburgh. I've said it before, my new favorite team in the NFL. That's right. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And on to talk about the Steelers, he's my guy, Mark Kaboly, senior Steelers writer for The Athletic. Mark, thank you for joining me. I see the background, what's going on here, because it's been a big day in the NFL. We are saying goodbye to Aaron Donald in terms of announcing his retirement. And it seems like you're in a place where Aaron Donald frequented, I should say.
Well, currently frequents too. I mean, there's a number of times I walk in this pit facility behind me here, which has about 9-10 pictures of Aaron Donald on the wall here, and he's working out right on the side over here. So I'm a little bit shocked I haven't seen him yet. And it is the Aaron Donald weight room right across the street right here. So I like to say this is the house that Aaron Donald built here. And that's where we're at.
There it is. The house that Aaron Donald built is where Mark Kaboly is talking to us here for right now. But I mentioned it before, my new favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pulled off, I would say, the biggest move in free agency so far in signing quarterback Russell Wilson, a $1.2 million deal, very much a bargain for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think a lot of people had the Steelers and Russell Wilson on their bingo card, but yet the number was pulled. What happened in that meeting, that visit with Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin?
Well, first of all, it's a lot of players, if not all the players, really respect Mike Tomlin. So
right.
That's number one. That's what got him in the door and talking here. And once you get him in the door and you start talking to Mike Tomlin, I mean, it's pretty hard to get out the door right there because both of them are very smooth talkers, as in Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson, who just finished up a news conference here a little bit ago. Russell was speaking glowingly of the organization. And, what I found kind of interesting of what he said, Kirk, was he's looking to have a good 5 to 7 years left. 5 to 7 years left. That's into his early 40s.
Yeah.
If you can get that out of him, that's great right there. So I don't think this was on anybody's radar until he showed up here. Maybe if it was a goodwill gesture of bringing him in here because he has some ties with some of the minority owners. However he got in here, once he got here, it was pretty known quickly that he wasn't leaving.
But Mark, my thing is this. The Steelers won 10 games last year. They went 10-7. They make the playoffs. Adding Russell Wilson to a quarterback room that will be without Mitch Trubisky, be without Mason Rudolph. Kenny Pickett is still there, but I thought it was something to be said that last year when Kenny Pickett was healthy, that Mike Tomlin still went with Mason Rudolph as his quarterback. I think that Russell Wilson is an upgrade. A team that went 10-7 now has Russell Wilson. Does this make the Pittsburgh Steelers a now contender, not just for the division, but for maybe an AFC title?
Well, they have a couple more things to go after here to clean up a little bit. Right. They got rid of Deontay Johnson, so their wide receiver room's a little bit light right now. But I'm sure General Manager Omar Khan has something up his sleeve here relatively soon to address that. And they got to add a couple more pieces on defense as well. They did add Patrick Queen as well, which is a substantial get on defense for a team that was lacking an inside linebacker. But I was a little bit skeptical myself of Russell Wilson. I mean, he hasn't had the best 2 or 3 years right now, but just to see him talking and presenting himself to the media and some of the stories he was telling, the guy is an absolute 100% leader. And if he can only play partly as well as he shows that he can lead, this team's going to be extremely difficult. I mean, they got a decent offensive line. They got 2 really, really good running backs right now in Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. Like I said, they have to add a couple more pieces. Russell's still going to have to play well moving forward, better than he has in the past couple of years. But my goodness, he really won people over, I think, today with just how he brings a different type of leadership to this room. We've seen Roethlisberger here for 18 years. He led in a different way. The past 3 years, they've been, looking for guys when they had Pickett and they had Trubisky, and those guys weren't in that same position. But Russell Wilson showed he's a pro's pro. And like I said, if he's only a fraction of what he showed here about an hour ago on the field, this team will be a very difficult team to beat.
Senior Steelers writer for The Athletic, Mark Kaboly, joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison here filling in for Rich. And Mark, I know that Mike Tomlin is going to tell us there's a competition at quarterback. Yeah. Is there really a competition at quarterback between Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett? Does Kenny Pickett have a legitimate shot at winning this quarterback job? Or is it just Russell Wilson by nature? It's going to be him, and we just don't even have to wait for week one. Just give it to Russell.
Yeah, I like Kenny Pickett. I think he'll eventually figure things out right here, but you're not bringing in Russell. I mean, who are we kidding here? We're not bringing in Russell Wilson to be but he's going to have to fail miserably in the preseason and training camp. And even then, he's probably going to get the benefit of the doubt during the season right here. So, I mean, Russell was very, very careful of how he laid out that question that was asked to him, if he's the starter or if he's coming in to compete. He knows darn well he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers right now. That's not the time nor the place to do it right now. But Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback of your Pittsburgh Steelers, barring injury, barring him. I mean, there's nothing else I can see than him not starting the season as the starter than an injury. I mean, other than that, he's your starter.
You know, Mark, one of the things that I did here throughout the season, maybe it was more of the exit interviews, and it was from Najee Harris. And I remember him saying the word, we need more leadership within leadership. And everybody was pointing to Mike Tomlin. And he's saying, no. They wanted more players to take owner of leadership. I did think the Pittsburgh Steelers grabbed two leaders. You've already mentioned one. Russell Wilson becomes a leader of the football team, not just of the offense, but then you also bring in Patrick Queen, who was a leader on that defense for the Baltimore Ravens. He now brings his leadership in a role at linebacker where I was waiting for the Steelers to call me last year because they had nobody at middle linebacker. But I thought even in this offseason, they've got two quality leadership role players that I thought that they didn't have in the last couple years, to say.
Actually, Kirk, you may have been too expensive for them last year.
You're right, Mark. Let them know.
They were going a little bit lower than that, trying to figure out with all these injuries here. But the good thing about Patrick Queen is he's still a really young guy.
Absolutely.
He's 24, and he doesn't need to be a leader on this team or on this defense. You got Cam Hayward, you got Minka Fitzpatrick, you got TJ Watt, you got Alex Highsmith. So he can worry right now just about doing his job at a position that they really, really were lacking the past couple of seasons. I mean, they do have a Landon Roberts, who's a veteran, and he's a very good player still to this day. And I think he's in his 30s. But the leadership on the flip side, and I think you hit that nail on the head right there, is on that offense was a bunch of young guys. It just seemed like they were just looking for somebody to lead. I mean, Deontay Johnson tried to, but he did it in a weird way that really didn't resonate. But now with the Russell Wilson, that too is something you just cannot just forget about. A reason why they brought Russell Wilson in. I think more than anything, he is a leader, and he's going to be showing up a lot. Patrick Queen, like I said, a 24-year-old inside linebacker where they've been searching for a guy since the Ryan Shazier tragic injury of 7-8 years ago. They've went down every path possible to try to find one, and they haven't been able to find one. This guy seems like the player that they've been looking for, a young guy that could just help this defense out tremendously. I mean, so yeah, leadership on that offense, and that's what they needed. And Najee's right. I mean, who do you turn to? There's only so much the head coach can do. At times, somebody has to step up on that offensive side of the ball and say, this is how things are. And I think they got that with Russell.
You know, Mark, Mike Tomlin tries to deflect this question, but it is a real question. He goes into the final year of his contract as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A deal it seems to be imminent. He says he's not worried about it. He's in a good place with the Rooney family, and they'll get something done. But until it gets done, he enters his final year of a contract. And yes, we all know Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if no contract gets done, is it at least obviously 500 season or better? But does this team have to win a playoff game, which they haven't done in almost 10 years?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been 7 years since they've won a playoff
7
game.
years. It's closer to 10 for me, right?
They've lost like three times in a row. They lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that deal's pretty much rubber stamped done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Rooneys obviously like to have cohesion on their organization, and nobody loves a guy more than Mike Tomlin. And you know what? Deshaun Elliott was talking today too, the safety they got from Miami,
right.
And he just said, "Hey, there's not a guy in this league that does not want to play for Mike Tomlin." And just watching Mike Tomlin next to these guys talking, these free agents, and the smile he was having, it was like he was watching one of his sons grow up. He still loves the game.
Yeah.
He loves the game more than anything. You see him out on the practice field. He hasn't stepped. He's 52 years old today. Birthday today. Happy birthday, Mike. You're watching, He hasn't slowed down one bit. So I think it's just a matter of putting pen to paper. They like to do it in their own terms. A lot of times that's not until right before the training camp starts. So Art Rooney came out and already said it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, of him re-signing. Like I said, I would assume historically that's done 2 days before training camp, so look for it in July. He's not going to be a lame duck guy.
I got you. Hey, last question for you, Mark, before I get you out of here. I'm looking at all the guys, the losses in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers: Trubisky, Harvin, Okafor, Cole, Neal, Robinson, Patrick Peterson, the trade for Deontay Johnson, no more Rudolph, and Armand Watts as well. So with all those losses, what do you think will be the next addition for this team so far after Deshaun Elliott, Dante Jackson? They've got a couple of guys, but what will be the next addition you think this team goes after? And I know as it sits right now, it's March 15th, but they're at pick number 20. Where do you think this kind of leans next for an addition to this Pittsburgh Steelers football team?
Well, they have to address the wide receiver position. They only have George Pickens, who's a tremendous athlete. But other than that, you got Calvin Austin, who he played sparingly, but he's good. I mean, he's fast guy. He's one of the faster guys around. So they'll address the wide receiver position at some point. People are clamoring for Tyler Boyd. I know they have had preliminary talks. I'm not quite sure where that's going to go, but Tyler Boyd could be an addition here of wide receiver. If not, I mean, you got guys like Hunter Renfrow. So a receiver position going to be happening here in free agency before you know it. As for the draft, I mean, they want to build the trenches, and to build the trenches, that's how Andy Weidel, the assistant GM, learned to do it in Philly. That's how they want to do it here in Pittsburgh. You could see them taking Powers Jackson from Oregon, the center. They're pretty light at center. You could take Mims from Georgia, a tackle in the first round, 20th overall. Then they would probably address the wide receiver position in the second round. But I fully anticipate a big, nasty, ugly offensive lineman in that first 20 picks.
Sounds about right when you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Mark Kaboly, I appreciate the time, brother. Live from the house that Aaron Donald built, man. Thank you again for the time, Mark.
All right, guys. All right, Kirk.
I appreciate it, man. That's Mark Kaboly, the senior Steelers writer for The Athletic, covering my 2024 favorite team, your Pittsburgh Steelers. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.